Hi everyone. So this is a video. It's going to be short and it's going to be addressed to a specific group of people. These are the people who don't see the value in human design, don't understand it, don't know what it's about, can't see the benefit in them, think it's another cult, or you've got to think a particular way and you're not interested in that. They're too busy, they're too spiritual, they're too evolved, or to whatever, right? I want this to go right to the core of what human design really offers. So you can step back and take a few minutes to really look at, is this going to be for you or not? Is the way it's been presented to you until now either not relatable or not practical enough? I just want to get into the nitty-gritty of what human design is and what it can do for you. As one of my friends who's very into marketing says, show them the benefits and tell them what's in it for them. What's in it for you. So, drawing on 9 years of experience of really, testing it and living it and being involved with it, here are the things that really jump out to me. One, it takes so much pressure off you, particularly mentally and physically. There's so much stress we experience in our lives because we're thinking about things that don't matter to us, or we're driven physically by things that are going on around us and things that other people are doing and what the environment's going through. We're driven by that in ways that don't really connect with something that will bring us a benefit. And so a huge amount of the stress. Now, being human, you experience stress, but it was never meant to be anywhere near as stressful as we experience as human beings. And the vast majority of the stress we experience as human beings is unnecessary, mentally especially, and physically as well. So that's the first thing that now, getting used to not having so much stress when there are things to worry about, to get anxious about, or things to rush to get done. That's something I've had to really come to grips with, that so often I stress about things that don't matter, mentally and or physically. But when you get used to letting go of that unnecessary stress, it's a huge benefit to your health, to your body, and to your mind, especially to your physical body and the way it deals with physical energy. Exercising, working with other people, just managing the physical needs that you have during the day. And mentally, with the internet and the media and everything at the level that it is now, there is so much potential to stress about things that really aren't specifically relevant to you at this time in your life. So we've never been under as much mental pressure as we are now, I would suggest, because we've got access to so much information. So that's the first thing. The second area is to do with awareness. Now, we have a tendency to react to what we're aware of. It's been built into us for millions and millions, probably hundreds of millions of years. It's our instincts. We also are mentally aware and capable of thinking for ourselves. And until lately, we have been purely driven by our emotions. And what we're discovering now is we've got an instinctive body intelligence, which has extraordinary capacities developed over hundreds of millions of years. And we've got a mental intelligence or a mental awareness that we can use, but again is often overstimulated by physical pressure. But it's something we've been coming to grips with over the last tens of thousands of years. And we really need to know where it's at its best and where it's not applicable. You know, what parts of our life to apply it to and what parts of our life to keep it away from, and what it actually brings to the table, what the benefits are. And then we've got all this emotional stuff that has been driving us for thousands of years. If you look at history, you know, you look at great art and Shakespeare and Chinese plays and all this sort of Chinese opera and that, it's such a litany of how we're driven by our emotions. But what we're discovering now is we also have a third awareness, emotional awareness. Now, the beauty about human design is it tells you very clearly amongst those three awarenesses where you're at and how to handle them in the way that works for you, not the way that works for other people. You know, whether they're open and receptive, whether they're very defined and operate in a very specific way, how they operate, how to use them, and what puts pressure on them. You know, mental pressure on our mental awareness, but our physical energy, the pressure we experience in the physical world really looks at, you know, really stimulates our instincts and our emotions. And the key about that boils down to this. Instinctively, do you know how to react? Or are you just reacting to stuff randomly and getting yourself into trouble? Mentally, do you know how to take care of your mind and really give it the work that it's truly meant to do? Do you know its area of expertise? So you can use your mind the way your mind was designed to be used. And understand, you know, what it can do for you and where it can get you in trouble. And with emotional awareness, it boils down to this. Really, do you know how to relax with emotion and allow emotion to bring you wisdom rather than constantly being driven by it into things that really don't serve you, that really don't help you in business and relationships? You know, they just get you into trouble. You know, and these awarenesses are crucial to being able to understand what's going on in your life. And they boil down to supporting a bunch of other things right at the core of who you are. How you express yourself, how you respond to life, what you really need to do, what you have the will to do, and right at the core of it, who you are as a person. Now, once you can handle pressure, the stress of being alive, of having to think and having to deal with the physical world, and you know what your awareness is, where you're gifted and where you're not, where you're being pressured or pushed by it, driven by emotion, where you're being distracted by your mind, where you're reacting or overreacting, you know, just too skittish and tending to jump into things before you're ready, or when there's nothing really threatening you, you're reacting about something when you're actually not under threat. Or you need to let something go that is not good for you, but you're still hanging on to it. When you get that clear, Then you've got the ability to respond to life in a way that's healthy for you. And in responding to life, develop an identity. And from that identity, truly express yourself honestly, clearly. Appropriately is by far the better word. So many times people, and I know from my own experience this, they express themselves inappropriately by trying to gain attention when there's no need for it, or, saying stuff that doesn't need to be said, that just complicates the matter, or holding back from expressing themselves when it's time for them to step up and speak up, or to move ahead and do something in their life that will deal with the issues that are going on, to manifest something. And then there's this core, this thing that we call free will. So many people are out there trying to prove themselves when they don't need to. Actually, statistically, it's about 70% of the population out there pushing to do things they don't need to do. Desiring stuff they don't need. Wanting to get attention. Wanting to react. Wanting to get emotional. Wanting to be somebody. And they don't need to. And then there are people who do need to react or express their emotions or speak up or, act out their identity, do something with their identity, take a stand for something that they want to bring to the world that might be disturbing to other people, but it's their job to do it. And getting that clear, where don't you have to prove yourself? Do you have to prove yourself? Is there anything you're here to prove or to improve or to help with? Because I see so many people, a very good friend of mine said one of the greatest things human design ever did for him right up the front was make it clear that he had nothing to prove, so he could just relax and really be himself. He might not have nothing to prove, but he certainly has impact. And each of us fall into one of these categories. Now, this isn't really about self-study, self-enlightenment, It's really about getting to know how you operate, what you're here to do, and, and how to take care of yourself, like buying a car. You want to know where to put the oil, where to put the petrol, when to change the tyres, when to go and get it tuned, what it can do in traffic, how quickly it accelerates, how good the brakes are, how to adjust the mirrors, so that the whole thing flows and you can enjoy the ride. Well, this is what human design does for you. It doesn't turn you into an enlightened being. It turns you into someone who can really enjoy living in the real world, while your physical can thoroughly enjoy it. And even if you are, it will tweak it and fine-tune it so it hums. Think of yourself as a Formula One racing car and how just the finest little, if your life is great, okay. But, just those little tweaks, changing the balance of this, moving that forward, bringing this back, changing the weight ratios here, having slightly different tyres, slightly wider, slightly thin. Same thing with surfboards, just 1 or 2 inches here can make all the difference. A slightly dropped rail or raised rail, depending on the conditions. For those of you who are doing great, and says, who needs all this stuff and that? Hey, can you get more finesse, more value, more pleasure, more beauty out of life? Of course I mean, as a human being, there's always that desire. Even when you're satisfied, you can tweak the satisfaction. You can work on the satisfaction, not just getting there. Right? Fine-tuning it, making it more elegant, making it more artful. And that's what human design really does for people. It gets you right to the core of how to enjoy your life as a physical person in the physical world without in any way, and I know this because I've done decades of work on this other stuff, without any way detracting from your higher aspirations, your religious or your spiritual nature. This is about getting the very best out of being human while you're in a human body. And when you're in that sort of state, all the other things that you get involved with, that I've get involved with, I've seen not only no diminishing in those areas in my, well, particularly mental and emotional stuff. It's fine-tuned it so beautifully, as well as fine-tuned my body and my relationship with living my life. But all that other, the spiritual, the creative, the artistic, the imaginative, the dreaming, the visioning, all that stuff, not only has it not taken away from it, it's given it the freedom to expand and develop in ways that in the past I didn't really imagine it would. In the past, just to be honest, I thought getting involved with the physical world too much would be a distraction. What I'm discovering is getting involved with the physical world is an attraction, not a distraction. It brings more of that other stuff in. It's not like one or the other. They enhance each other. And if you're going to get the best out of being in a human body on both levels, being physical and enjoying all the benefits and possibilities of human life, and develop the other dimensions of who you are, whatever you believe those to be, there is no loss. In fact, there's a major gain. There's a flow-on benefit, because more of your imagination, your visioning, your dreaming can manifest through a healthy body, through a person who's enjoying their life more easily. And if you don't really care about that sort of stuff, when life is really humming in this world, you're getting the very best internally as well as externally out of the physical life, then those things naturally become more attractive, and you tend to go, leave out the BS, give me the good stuff, give me the real deal. And because that's the way you live your physical life, you're very acutely able to assess that if you ever get interested in those more esoteric areas. Like being healthy and you suddenly get the desire to play the violin, you're going to be in a better place than if you're really not healthy to take up something new on any level. So human design is really the manual of how to enjoy your life now and in the future while you're in a physical body, to get the very best out of living in the physical world, to get the very best out of your mind, because you're freeing it up from having to run your life, and your body can really develop itself into the unique body that you would satisfy you, or truly delight you, or truly help you feel like being in a physical body in the human world was truly successful experience. Or to live a life where you're making real impact on the world, but at peace with who you are, despite what other people are doing. It's a beautiful thing. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's really worth looking into, especially if you're a practical, down-to-earth person who doesn't want to put up with BS. Has it been presented in the most clear terms, practical terms yet? No. It's been presented well, but I'm working on making it clearer and clearer myself. And hopefully this has given you a little bit of an insight to, it's worth really checking out for practical people, for innovators, for entrepreneurs, for people who say to themselves, I live in the real world and I've got to deal with real issues. Then check human design out, because it's for you. I'll talk to you later.